Okay, let's talk about one of the absolute strangest things our minds can do, déjà vu. You know that feeling, right? That super weird, spooky sensation that you've lived this exact moment before? Is it some kind of psychic flash, a memory from a past life? Or is it something way more interesting, a tiny, temporary glitch in your brain's amazing memory system?
I'm going to go out on a limb and say yes, you totally have. Just think about it for a second. You walk into a building for the first time, or you're in the middle of a conversation, and bam! This wave of intense familiarity just washes over you. Logically, you know it's impossible. You've never been here. But every part of your brain is screaming, yes, we have. It's a bizarre little paradox that pretty much all of us get to experience.
So in this explainer, we are going to pull back the curtain on that mystery. We'll start with what that already seen feeling really is. Then we'll look at some surprising clues that came from brain seizures. After that, we'll dive into how your own memory can trick you, how scientists are actually testing this stuff in virtual reality, and finally, we'll settle the score. Is it just a feeling of familiarity, or can you actually see the future?
All right, so first up, what is this feeling? Let's get on the same page and really define this experience that so many of us have had. The name itself, déjà vu, is just French for already seen, and honestly, that nails it. It's this powerful but totally false sense of recognition. But here's the key part, the thing that makes it so bizarre. You feel it's real, but at the exact same time you know it isn't. It's that clash in your head that makes the whole thing so unforgettable. And get this, it's not some rare freak occurrence. Not at all. Studies suggest that up to 90%, that's 9 out of 10 people, have felt déjà vu at least once. It's practically a universal human experience. So yeah, if you felt it, you're definitely not alone. And for most of us, the experience is pretty much the same. It just hits you out of the blue, lasts for maybe a few seconds, and then poof, it's gone. It's totally random, and you can never predict when it's going to happen. And what's really fascinating is that it happens way more often when we're younger, especially between ages 15 and 25. And then it tends to fade a bit as we get older. For the longest time, déjà vu was just this weird quirk people talked about. But the first real scientific breakthrough, well, it came from a totally unexpected place, the world of neuroscience, and specifically the study of epilepsy. Yeah, researchers started noticing something really interesting. For people with a very specific kind of epilepsy, it's called mesial temporal lobe epilepsy, déjà vu was an incredibly common thing. In fact, for a huge chunk of these patients, somewhere between 50 and 80%, a super intense wave of déjà vu is the very first sign, what's called an aura, that a seizure is about to happen. This was a massive clue for scientists.
Now, we need to be clear here, we're talking about two different beasts. The everyday déjà vu that most of us feel is super quick and random. The kind that happens before a seizure is different. It's often the exact same false memory over and over, it can last way longer, and it can come with other physical feelings. And because this version was predictable, it gave researchers a specific brain event they could finally study.
And by studying these patients, neuroscientists were able to zero in on a déjà vu hotspot in the brain, the medial temporal lobe. Think of this as the main hub for your long-term memory. It's got all the big players, like the hippocampus and the rhinal cortices. They even found that if they used a tiny electric probe to stimulate these exact spots in the brain, they could actually turn on that feeling of déjà vu artificially. Wild, right?
Okay, so we know where it happens in the brain. Awesome. But the next massive question is how? How does this little part of our brain create such a convincing and strange illusion? Well, let's get into the leading theories. The general agreement now is that déjà vu isn't anything supernatural. It's actually a super interesting temporary glitch in your memory's wiring. It's like your brain's super organized filing system just misfiles something for a split second, a little bug in the software. So one of the biggest theories is called dual processing. And to get this, you got to know that recognizing something involves two different jobs in your brain. The first is familiarity. That's just that gut feeling that you've seen a face or a place before. The second job is recollection. That's your brain actually pulling up the file, remembering the who, what, where, and when.
Usually, those two systems work in perfect harmony. But during déjà vu, they get out of sync for a second. So here's the glitch. First, the familiarity part of your brain sends out a super strong signal that says, hey, I know this. But then, the recollection part of your brain goes to find the actual memory file, and it comes up with nothing. It's like getting an alert on your phone, but when you open it, there's no message. And that mismatch is what creates that powerful but totally baseless feeling of having been there before.
Okay, and then there's another really cool idea called the Gestalt familiarity hypothesis. This one says it's not about the things you see, it's about the layout of the space. So imagine you were in a room years ago and you've totally forgotten about it. But today you walk into a brand new place that just happens to have the exact same spatial setup, a window on the left, a table in the middle. Your brain recognizes the pattern, the layout, and that triggers a feeling of familiarity even though you have zero memory of the original place.
Now, these are amazing theories, but they raise a huge question. How in the world do you test something so random and quick in a lab? You can't just ask people to have déjà vu on command. Well, this is where the science gets really, really clever. They turn to virtual reality. One of the leading researchers here is Dr. Anne Cleary, and she wanted to tackle a really specific part of the déjà vu myth. You know how when it happens, people often feel like they know what's going to happen next? She asked, what if that feeling of prediction is just another part of the memory illusion?
To figure this out, her lab had to do the impossible: make déjà vu happen on demand. They started out using the video game The Sims, and then they built their own custom VR worlds. And they used that Gestalt familiarity idea as their blueprint, creating scenes that looked totally different but had identical spatial layouts.
The whole setup was just brilliant. So first, people in the study would watch little video tours of different scenes in VR. Simple enough. Then in the second part, they'd see a bunch of brand new scenes. But, and here's the trick, some of those new scenes were secretly built using the exact same floor plan as an earlier scene, just with all the furniture and decorations completely changed.
So here's an example. In the first phase, you might see this virtual aquarium. Just kind of pay attention to the layout. You've got two big rectangular tanks over on the left and a round stand in the middle of the floor. Got it? Okay, so then later you see this doctor's office. Now, at a glance, it's a totally different room. But look closely. The layout is identical. You've got two rectangular couches right where the fish tanks were, and a round table right where the fishbowl stand was. Same map, different scenery.
And guess what? It worked. People reported feeling much higher levels of familiarity, that déjà vu-like state, when they were in a new scene that copied an old layout. And more importantly, they also said they felt like they could predict what they were going to see around the next corner. So the big question became, is that feeling real, or is it just another trick?
And this brings us to the final reveal, the part where we find out if there's any truth to that feeling of being a little bit psychic.
The results were crystal clear. When people were in that state of déjà vu, their feeling that they could predict the future was super high. They were really confident. But when they were actually forced to guess which way the tour would turn, left or right, their accuracy was 50-50. Total chance. No better than if they had just flipped a coin.
So, the verdict is in. That feeling of being able to see the future during déjà vu is a powerful illusion, but that's all it is. It's a side effect of that intense familiarity. Your brain basically makes a mistake. It confuses the strong signal of, wow, this feels familiar, with, wow, I know what's coming next. But the science is solid on this. You can't actually predict the future.
So the next time that weird, eerie feeling hits you, you don't have to freak out. It's not a message from beyond or a vision of things to come. In fact, you can think of it as a good thing. It's your brain's internal fact-checker working perfectly, catching that mismatch between a feeling and a real memory. It's just a little glitch in the matrix, a fascinating peek under the hood at how incredible and complex our memory really is. And it really makes you wonder, right? If we've only just started to scientifically understand a glitch as common as déjà vu, what other strange and wonderful quirks of our own minds are still out there just waiting to be discovered?